It's really making sense why the younger generations are quitting the workforce here in America. Aside from the whole cost of living crisis that we're experiencing in this country, the fact that the 40-hour work week with the advent of technology and artificial intelligence feels a bit antiquated. Feels that we're spending too much time at work, first off. So there's an issue of the work-life balance in the first place. But the main theme of this video is to really deep dive why so many young people are quitting the workforce. And the main issue has to do with it just not being worth it to work. And it sounds crazy because how can you make a living if you don't work? Which is insane to think about. But when you look at the numbers and the observations in today's economy, housing has never been more expensive to attain. To make rent is insane in this country. Forget about buying a house if you're in your 20s and 30s by yourself. You definitely have to cohabitate. How do you pronounce it? Essentially, you have to live with someone. You have to have a roommate, got to be married, or just be in a living arrangement with someone that you trust. You can't do it alone with just one salary. Back in the 1950s and 60s, one person under one salary could purchase a house easily, could afford a decent car, can set aside time for a vacation. These days, you can't do that. The cost of living is just insane. And it makes sense why Gen Y, Gen Z, and younger generations are dropping out of the workforce. It's not worth it. It's not worth it to them. Why work so hard when you can't really be rewarded working for someone else? So, one begs the question, what's the solution to this? Well, the answer is threefold really. One, now is the time to really cut down on your expenses. Not spend money on unnecessary garbage, things that are wasteful. You need to make cuts on that. Number two, there has to be some sort of government action in place where governments step in and really address particularly the issue of housing, how unaffordable and unattainable it's become for younger generations. The third point is really assessing how you spend time and work. Since it doesn't really make sense to work for someone, you have to take steps in finding solutions to build something for yourself. So that means starting a business, starting a YouTube blog like I'm doing now, or, just if there's like a passion that you have, find a way to make an income out of it. But what I can tell you is just working for someone or working for a major company in the United States, it does not make sense. And this is why, at least in 2025, why so many young people are dropping out of the workforce. It's just not feasible anymore. Cost of living is through the roof. Groceries is hard to afford. Renting is impossible by yourself. You have to have someone that you are living with, that you trust. Doesn't make sense. These kind of phenomenons, when we're looking at it, you can't just make it by yourself anymore. You need two salaries to sustain a lifestyle in the country, in the United States. And it shouldn't have to be that way. But it is. This is the reality that we face in this country. But the quick controllables, definitely cut down on your expenses. Live on less than what you make. If you follow those two main principles, you can navigate through these tough times. And it's tough. It's tough out there. But honestly, the U.S. really needs, especially those in government and in power and in leadership, they really need to take steps to address the housing crisis. Because if young people can't afford to purchase a home of their own, that in itself can create societal instability. When you own a home, you take pride in your community. And when you take pride in your community, you could see overall society flourish. But if there's no chance of owning a home, why care where you live? This is the issue that we're having in our workforce, is that young people in younger generations, Gen Y, Gen Z, and younger folks are in a hopeless situation. And this is why there's so few young people willing to take low-wage jobs, because it's just not worth it to them. Why work? Why work so hard for so little pay? And this is the crisis that we're in this country. Until the next video.